Hi guys, it's Angie with Fun Endeavors Tie-Dye Lab. Today I'm going to make a couple of different shirts to try out a new Dalula Company color called Lunar Eclipse. For the first shirt, I'm going to use a long sleeve George brand t-shirt. It's 100% cotton and I purchased it from Walmart in the men's department. I saw where somebody did an incline twist, but they actually started their twist kind of a little bit on the front of the shirt, which I thought was cool. So that's what I'm going to do. I made a mark with a washable marker on the front of my shirt up near the shoulder. I'm going to grab that area, just a single layer of the fabric, lift the shirt up off the table and start to twist it. Once I have the shirt twisted, I'm going to place it down inside of a long piece of vinyl guttering. I buy these longer pieces of guttering at Lowe's, and then I actually have cut it down. I have 2 longer pieces of guttering and then quite a few shorter pieces of guttering. Because this is a long sleeve shirt and because I started the twist high up on the shirt, my twist is longer and I'm going to need to use a longer piece of vinyl guttering. To make sure the shirt doesn't slide all the way out of the guttering down at the bottom, I'm going to take a piece of kite string and attach it to the very top part of the twist. And then I'm going to take the other piece of kite string and attach it to the end of the vinyl guttering. I'm not going to actually tie this shirt, but I am going to adjust the twist just a little bit inside the vinyl guttering. With the piece of vinyl guttering laying flat on the table, I'm going to go ahead and apply the ice to the top of the shirt. I think it's easier to add the ice on top when the guttering is laying flat. When I go ahead and incline the piece of guttering, I'm going to have to go ahead and adjust the ice just a little bit, but it's easier to get the majority of the ice on the shirt when it's laying flat. To incline the shirt, I'm going to use a plastic tote that has pretty tall sides. I'm going to place one end of the piece of vinyl guttering down inside of the tote, and I'm going to leave the other end hanging off the edge. So that's going to put the shirt at a pretty good incline. Because this piece of guttering is so long, it's a little bit more difficult to navigate on my tie-dye table without knocking some stuff over. To help the ice keep from sliding out of the guttering as well, I've placed a softball size wiffle ball down at the very end of my piece of guttering. I'm going to adjust the ice just a little bit before I apply the dye. Like I mentioned earlier, the only dye color that I'm going to use on this shirt is Dalula Company's Lunar Eclipse. Amanda sent me this dye color to try out, and I made a color swatch of it, and it is a really cool color. So I like to do incline twists. I think they show a lot of the cool color splits in a color. So I definitely wanted to do an incline twist on this color. I'm going to lightly sprinkle the dye over the top of the ice. Then I'm going to place an additional sprinkle of dry soda ash over the top, place the shirt aside, and allow the ice to melt. I don't want to add too much dye over the top of the ice because I want to allow those colors to split out. I've included some process photos so you can see what the shirt looked like as the ice began to melt. I think there's some really cool color splits coming out of this color, and I'm excited to see what it looks like when it's finally finished. After the ice melted, I took the shirt out of the piece of guttering, placed it down inside of a tote that has a rack down in the bottom, placed the lid on top, and then I put the shirt outside in the heat where it could process. I left it for probably about 36 hours before I rinsed it. Okay, so let's go ahead and make the second shirt using Lunar Eclipse. For this one, I'm going to do a rolled and spiraled design. I've seen Mark from Psychedelic Serenity Tie-Dye making the cool rolled designs. I did a towel where I did a roll design, and then I went ahead and spiraled that roll design. So that's what I'm going to do on this t-shirt. I'm using a washable marker to make just kind of a wavy line or a line on the shirt. And then I'm going to start at one end of that line, and I'm going to start rolling that line really tightly. I'm going to go ahead and kind of direct the other part of the fabric to keep rolling as I'm rolling that specific little line. Some of the designs that I've seen Mark do are really cool. I don't know that I've ever seen him do one where he rolls it and spirals it though. So it looked really cool on the towel. Let's see what it looks like on a shirt. I went ahead and adjusted my line just a little bit to make a little bit more of a severe curve in the shirt. Once I have the shirt rolled, I'm going to start at one end, grab that end, and start spiraling it in on itself. And I'm trying to spiral it fairly tightly. Now I'm going to tie the shirt with some kite string to hold everything in place. I went ahead and tied a couple more shirts before I came back to applying the dye to this one. So it wasn't completely dry, but it was not very damp when I applied the dye. For my setup, I have a plastic tub or tote, and down inside I'm going to place a metal basket upside down, and then on top of that metal basket, I'm going to place another metal basket, which I purchased both of these from the Dollar Tree dollar store. I think the round metal basket they actually call a trash can. I'm going to place the shirt down inside of the round basket, and then I'm going to sprinkle the Lunar Eclipse over the top. I'm going pretty heavy-handed with this one. I went fairly light-handed with the other one, and I placed it over the top of the ice. This one I'm going to place the dye under the ice and see if there's a difference in the way the color works. I know there's going to be. You know, I've done experiments before where I place the dye over the ice and dye under the ice, and there is a difference in the way the dye color looks and in the way the dye color splits. Now I'm going to add an additional sprinkle of dry soda ash over the top of the dye, and then I make ice in food prep containers to use for gravity dyes. I'm going to just use one of those on top of this shirt. It fits perfectly inside of this container. I've included some process photos so you can see what the shirt looked like as the ice melted. I think as the ice was melting, with this larger chunk of ice and the dye underneath it, some of these photos look pretty cool. I mean, they look kind of artistic even. So after this first big, large chunk of ice melted, I came back and I lifted up the shirt to look underneath, and I had a lot of white left underneath. I could have added another larger chunk of ice to the top of the shirt to try to get the dye all the way through, but there was quite a bit of white. So I went ahead and turned the shirt over and applied more dye to the back side of the shirt. I added some more soda ash and another larger chunk of ice. After this large chunk of ice melted, I put the lid on this tote, and I placed the tote outside where it was much warmer. I allowed the shirt to process for probably about 36 hours before I began to rinse it. Okay, so let's go ahead and rinse both of the shirts and see what they look like. I'm going to start with the Incline Twist. I took it to my utility sink and I started rinsing it in cold water to rinse out the soda ash. Then, because the shirt wasn't tied, I just took off the piece of string that was at the end, warmed the water up to hot, and I continued rinsing in hot water to rinse out the excess dye that didn't bond with the fabric. I prefer not to rinse for a long time. Instead, I prefer to go ahead and soak the shirts. I think soaking in really hot water is one of the best ways to get out the excess dye. So what I do is I run some really hot water in my utility sink, add a little bit of Blue Dawn dish detergent to the water, place the shirt inside, and just allow it to soak. When the water cools off, I change it out and I continue that process until my water that I'm soaking the shirt in remains almost clear. Okay, so let's rinse the other shirt. As you can see, the dye has gone through the shirt pretty well. I do have just a little bit of undissolved dye on the top of the shirt and on the bottom of the shirt. I'm going to rinse the shirt the same way. I'm going to start in the cold water, rinse it really well. Then with this one, I'm going to untie it before I warm the water up to hot and continue rinsing in hot water. I'm going to soak this shirt the same way I did the last one too. Once both of the shirts have been well soaked, I'm going to place them into my washing machine along with some Dharma's Professional Textile Detergent. I'm going to wash them on a hot water cycle, and then I'm going to throw them in the dryer. So right now, both of the shirts have been washed, dried, and ironed. And let's see what they look like. I'm going to start with the Incline Twist shirt. Okay, so what do you guys think? I think this is a gorgeous color. I love the green, the kind of purpley blue color. There's just so many color splits in this color. It is so pretty. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I was kind of expecting the purpley blue color to be like the more dominant color. But on this shirt, it's definitely the green. And there are so many cool shades of green. It's just really pretty. Do you see what I mean about that dye flow? Whenever you do an incline twist, that allows that dye to flow down the shirt, and the more the dye is allowed to flow, the more color splits I get. So when I do a longer twist like this, that dye just gets to flow the entire length of the shirt, and I think the outcome is just gorgeous. I did end up with a couple of oddball pink spots on the shirt, which were obviously little splits that came out of the dye. I'm not entirely sure what's up with that, but I don't really think it takes away from the design of the shirt. As far as putting or starting the twist on the front portion of the shirt, I think that looks kind of cool. So I absolutely love this shirt. Love the dye flow, love the design formed from the dye flow, and of course, I love the dye color. Think it is so pretty with the greens and the purpley blues. Just such a pretty color. Okay, so let's check out the other shirt made with the Lunar Eclipse. And I think this one looks really cool too. But the color is very different on this shirt. The green is a lot more prominent. It's a lot darker. Of course, remember, I did go more heavy-handed, and I placed dye on both the front of the shirt and on the back of the shirt. But just the dye in general. The purple isn't as prominent on this shirt. I have a lot more blue, like darker blue, kind of more like a navy-ish royal blue vibe. And I do have some of the other colors that are splitting out of the shirt. But the dye just looks very different on this shirt. It's still a gorgeous color. I think this is a really good illustration of how the way you use the dye color, the technique you use, the design, everything impacts the final outcome of the way a dye color looks. And I can't talk about this shirt without talking about the design of the shirt, which I think is really cool too. You know, this is the first time that I have done this type design on a t-shirt, and I think it looks really cool. Between the design and the color splits, there's just a lot going on this shirt. But I think that's what makes it kind of interesting to look at. You have that one mainly blue line, which is the line that I actually rolled. And I think it's funny how the blue went right along that rolled line. Then I started the spiral on that one sleeve. So you can see that was like the center part of my spiral. And that portion, the dye is darker, and then it kind of lightens as it goes down toward the bottom of the shirt, which I think is also kind of a fun thing on this shirt. And as I get out toward the edge of that rolled design, the splits kind of get a little bit, or the dye gets a little bit more watercolory, I guess is a good word for it. I don't know. I think it's just really interesting. I think it's really cool. I love the dye color on this shirt. But when you look at these two shirts together side by side, I mean, I wouldn't have guessed that they were the same dye colors if I wasn't really scrutinizing. The color just looks very different on both of these shirts. But I think that that's a great illustration of how the same dye color can look very different from project to project and based on the conditions. I tried to keep the conditions just about the same on both of these shirts. I mean, I did do very, very different techniques, but I put them both outside. You know, it was about the same temperature. I left them outside about the same amount of time. So I tried to keep as many elements the same as I could between the two shirts. I was kind of expecting this color to do its own thing because when I read the description out on Amanda's website, which by the way, I'll leave a link down below this video in the description to Dalula Company, which is her website. Her description says, Lunar Eclipse showcases a mix of blues, purples, blacks, grays, greens, and yellows, creating a stunning and unique color scheme. It can often shift appearance from one project to another, following its uniqueness. From the moment I created Lunar, I knew it would be a shape-shifting color with a fun palette, leaving each project fun to rinse out. And she definitely wasn't joking on that one. So both of these projects are very unique, and I do think that's great about this color. I really love these colors that are formulated especially for ice dyeing. You know, when you add so many different dye colors into a mixture, you never know exactly which combination of those colors you're going to get on a project, which is what I think makes it kind of cool and unique. So if you're interested in this color, like I said, I've left a link down below this video in the description for Dalula Co. And you need to be aware that Amanda is a single person business. So she is a small business. She mixes all of her dyes by herself and does all the work. And because her dyes are made to order, it can take up to 3 weeks between the time that you place your order and when your order actually ships. So I just want you to be aware of that. You may have to wait just a little bit, but I think it's worth the wait for these really cool colors. So clearly I love this color and I love both of these shirts. I think they both ended up really cool. But what do you guys think? Do you like this color? Do you like these shirts? Do you have a favorite? Do you prefer the inclined or do you like the rolled and spiraled shirt? Please drop me some comments down below and let me know. And if you've enjoyed the video, I sure would appreciate it if you would like it and if you'd subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you'll hit the bell, you'll receive a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.